Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is James Roberts. Welcome to the September 4th edition of Effective, Efficient, Affordable, and above all, accountable to you. The show that asks, is it right, is it reasonable, is it proper for Town Hall to refuse to provide those seeking absentee ballots with their ballots in time for them to vote? Yes, ladies and gentlemen, it's that time again. It's voting time. And so we're joined by John Gauger, as always. John, welcome.
Thank you.
This evening's show, obviously, we will focus on the budget. For those of you who tuned in expecting a completely different show, let's give you the quick 30-second synopsis, and then we'll go through it in detail over the next half an hour.
Vote is this Saturday, September 8th, 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. at the Pearson School. I'll let you talk about the absentee ballots, but with the window we have, you can physically go in and vote on Saturday, or you can go in and vote in person at the town hall requesting an absentee ballot if you're not going to be here on Saturday. But I think the mailing is done.
Yep. Serious point, ladies and gentlemen. You should have the expectation that if you apply in a timely fashion to town hall for an absentee ballot, that your wishes will be met, assuming that you can meet the qualifications of the absentee ballot. If you or your friends and neighbors believe that your vote has been suppressed, if you have asked for absentee ballot materials, if you have not received them, then you should call the office of the Secretary of State for the state of Connecticut. That is Denise Merrill. The number is up on the screen. It'll go up on the screen at various times during this evening's program. Denise Merrill, 860-509-6200. If you believe that you have completed the paperwork correctly and in a timely fashion, and if you have not received your ballot, if you have not been able to vote absentee because Town Hall has failed to provide you with the appropriate materials, call Denise Merrill, call the Secretary of the State for the state of Connecticut, and explain the situation. And if you've had the chance to speak to Town Hall, if you've been told by Town Hall that they are too busy, that dog licenses for local residents are more important than votes for absentees, convey that information too. Because this is a disgrace, ladies and gentlemen. This is a process where you vote, and anything that prevents you from voting is a disgrace.
Just to follow up, if you haven't received an absentee ballot, you can still go down and vote in person on Saturday. So if you are angry enough about not receiving the proper materials to exercise your democratic right, make it a point to spend the $20 in gas to drive up and go vote and drive back. But that's about the only way you can compensate for it at this time. The Secretary of State is a longer-term remedy, but if you want to vote and you haven't received the ballot, and even if you have received the ballot and you haven't exercised it, you can go and vote. If you believe your ballot is not there, you can go in at any point in time right up until 10 o'clock on the morning of the vote and rescind your absentee ballot and vote in person.
And if you are sitting on your ballot, if your ballot arrived today or arrives tomorrow, ship it in the FedEx. It's going to cost you 20 bucks. It's going to cost you money. It shouldn't. Get it FedExed, get it overnighted with a signature upon receipt so that you have the proof that the thing was received in Town Hall. Again, this is a level that we should not have to go through. We as voters should have the confidence that our vote will be counted. But if this is what we have to do, then we'll do it.
The address is 338 Main Street.
As to the substance of the vote, obviously we will be voting no. Now, it's been a funny sort of week or 2 weeks. One would have expected both our deputy mayor and our town manager to know what was in the budget that they were putting forward and to know what sort of a tax increase they were proposing. Deputy Mayor, registered citizen, August 10th, denied there was any kind of tax increase. Town Manager, Winstead Journal, last Friday, he thinks there's a tax increase of almost a complete mill. They're both wrong, ladies and gentlemen. Candy is wrong if she believes there is no tax increase. And she is telling you that there is no tax increase to persuade you to vote for a tax increase. I don't know what the town manager is thinking when he thinks that there's almost a mill of increased taxes. There isn't. But frankly, the bottom line is not the issue here. The issue is what is in the budget. Does it work? Is it a good budget? We think it's not a good budget. It does not address our problems. It does not address the very real and looming crisis that is the reval. and of everything that goes into the reval, and we will be voting no. We urge you to vote no also.
Let's just go back to the town meeting. And at the town meeting, I brought up a point of order in the sense that there was no presentation on the budget, and the Board of Selectmen, which is required by charter to give the mill rate, the estimated mill rate, failed to do so. Henry Centrella stood up there, but this is something that collectively the Board of Selectmen has to get from the town manager and the director of finance, and put it forward in a town meeting in the presentation, and stand by their estimate. I mean, if the estimate changes, they have to rationalize why to the public. None of this was done. Nope. I mean, this is, let's hide it from the people as long as we can, and
yeah, this is
you don't know what you're voting on. That's why you should vote no.
This is government by misinformation through the press. We've had government by litigation. That was, the last couple of administrations. Now we have government by newspaper misinformation. And that's not government, ladies and gentlemen. That's playing games. And we're not here to play games, least of all at a budget, least of all at this budget, because we are at a crossroads. We are in a very, very bad place here in Winsted. And the budget is the place to start fixing it. So,
and as I described last week, there are many towns in the state that have gone through the reval process last year that are not accepting any increases and are voting in down budgets, year-to-year down budgets. Winsted is a little bit different, is we haven't accommodated going down because of the reduction in the number of pupils in the education. We haven't even addressed that yet.
Right.
We haven't addressed consolidating the financial system such as New London has done. We haven't addressed any of the stuff that can make you more efficient and spend your dollars better and do it at less cost. And what we have is we have a new blight ordinance, and I would like to ask, the Board of Selectmen to make the first blight run at 246 Oak, 249 Oak, and 21 Bank. I mean, I drive by this stuff every day on my way home. And if you think a piece of paper is going to fix this, and you think you're going to get people to buy into the town without reducing the cost structure and the cost on the property, which is, i.e., the taxes, then I just think you're kidding yourself.
So how do we think about the budget? How did we think about the budget? How did we get to a no? How do we believe you should be thinking about the budget? My answer would be 3 questions. You should ask yourself 3 very simple questions. Can you afford the budget that is being proposed? Can you afford the tax increase that is proposed this year and the tax increases that will be consequent upon that? Can you afford the tax increases that will come with the reval? Can you afford the tax increases that will come with the decisions around pay and benefits that are included in this budget? That's question number 1. Question number 2. Does this budget do what it seeks to do well? Has it eliminated waste and duplication? Does it fund programs that actually work, that will actually meet their intended goals? Does it do whatever it does it do it well? And thirdly, the third question that you need to ask yourself, does the budget, in what it seeks to do what it needs to do? That's not do we like what it does, but does the budget do what it needs to do? Does it fix Winsted? Does it change the fact that the reval is coming down the pike? Does it address that? Does it address the problems of our downtown? If the answer to any of those questions is no, and frankly we think the answer to all of those questions is no, then there's a fourth question, which is what would we put in its place? But let's take them in order. Is the budget affordable?
No.
No. We are looking at 20% increases in taxes, ladies and gentlemen, consequent upon the reval. We have empty houses on our streets. We have empty stores on our main street. We have empty mill buildings. These are not signs of prosperity. The people who are moving to town are largely people moving into subsidized housing. We are increasing our subsidized housing. As John pointed out last week, the percentage of people on food stamps has gone up 70-odd%.
70%. You're 12% of your, roughly 1/8 of your population is on food stamps.
This is not a sign of prosperity. Statewide, we're in a slump. This is not the time to be raising taxes. The reval is coming. Mill rates are going to go up. If the mayor has her way, mill rates will go up downtown by 60% to an astonishing 40-plus mills. If that doesn't happen, then the Lake residents will see their taxes go up 25% on average, for some 50 to 100%. The problem that we have, the problem that the reval is a symptom of, is tax increases for no good effect. And the solution to tax increases is not more tax increases. It's that simple. This is not a budget that was ever calculated to be affordable. This was a budget that was calculated to have a small increase that could be hidden in the newspapers through misinformation and that you might vote for. And the two of us are telling you not to.
The reval information will be out it is for the October 1st, 2012 grand list, but they give it an extension, I believe, until the 1st of December. So it'll start trickling out somewhere in the November time frame, and then you'll understand what the grand list is. We're looking at, you know, a grand list that it collapses from $850 million down to $650, $675 million.
And that's typical of many Connecticut towns. This is not, we are not running around being Chicken Little saying, you know, that Winsted is somehow unique. The general experience has been for grand list decline this time around. We have seen residential properties decline in value. We have seen commercial properties decline in value. Our urban centers are in crisis. Winsted is typical in this respect. There are things that Winsted has done especially poorly that have made the problem worse. But we face a problem that many towns face, that other towns have begun to deal with by cutting their budgets. Not by refusing to talk about it, not by hoping it will go away, not by spreading weird stories in the newspaper, not by getting the numbers wrong, but by actually getting their costs under control and cutting their budget. By persuading their citizens that they have a plan, not a prayer, but a plan, a concrete plan to hold their hands and guide them through what will be a period of extraordinary stress in Connecticut municipalities.
I believe New London is consolidating the educational and town financial systems.
They're trying. I mean, they're facing all sorts of opposition from the schools, but they're trying. And then every town in Connecticut is trying to do something to bring some sanity to their fiscal situation. Winsted is alone in basically saying, no problem, there is no problem, it'll all go away. Those Roberts and Gaga guys, they're insane. We got to do something about it.
The big difference from Winsted in the town of Winchester from other communities is you have a very high growth, high dollar area in the lake, and then you have the old Milltown. I'm trying to think of another situation like that. I mean, there are many in which the old center city dominates, but not quite like Winsted, where the valuation has flipped so much into the outlying areas from the local downtown section. Yeah,
and obviously, you know, the Gold Coast cities have the very high waterfront properties, but don't have the industrial areas that have, you know, seen the dramatic declines that our downtown residential and industrial areas have seen. The valley towns, the Thomastons, the Waterburys have seen the collapse in their downtown values, but don't have the offsetting high dollar space. We have both. It serves to limit the degree to which the grand list declines, but it just means that the degree of the tax increases
the shift is tremendous.
Yeah. Either the lake ends up with a huge tax increase, or the downtown pays the lake's taxes. One of those two things will happen. And you should be very unhappy about that. You should be very, very unhappy about that. So question number one, can we afford the current budget? No. I think we can be pretty clear about that. Question number two, does the current budget do what it seeks to do well? No.
No.
We have ways
didn't change anything.
Right. It has not confronted a single problem. Pay and benefits that are completely, they're out of the dark ages. They are so generous, not confronted that problem.
No.
Staffing structures that perhaps are not as efficient as they might, not confronted that problem. Better use of our fixed resources, better use of our schools, our sewers, our roads, nothing. No action at all to confront any problems. And let's understand, ladies and gentlemen, we're not saying that the employees are the problem. None of us should say no if offered more money for doing the same thing. We would be foolish to say no, and we don't want foolish people running our town. It's not the employees that are the problem. It is the people making the decisions. It is the administration, it is the town manager, and ultimately it is us, the voters. If we don't put our foot down and say, fix this issue, who can blame the employees? I would do the same thing that I did yesterday for more. Wouldn't you?
Sure.
It's not the employee's fault, but we do have to fix it. But the real question here, ladies and gentlemen, is not whether to blame the employees, whether to blame the town manager, whether to blame us, the voters. The real issue is, does this budget fix the problem? Does it do what we need it to do? And again, it's not a question of do we like what it does. This budget basically gives money to worthy causes, charities, and to employees. And that's great. I like giving money to charities. I would like to choose how much money I give to which charity of my choice, rather than having the mayor make that choice for me. But giving to charity is a good thing. Having the luxury of being able to pay our employees better than anyone else in the state, in the private sector, the public sector.
Benefits.
It's a wonderful thing if you can afford it, but we can't. This budget promotes the mentality that town government exists not to provide services, but to provide employment. We don't have a school system to teach kids. We have a school system to provide employment to teachers and administrators. We don't have a Department of Public Works to fix roads. We have a Department of Public Works to employ people. We don't have a town hall to send out absentee ballots. We have a town hall to employ people. And that's not the way it's supposed to work, ladies and gentlemen. Yes, our employees are valued members of our community, but ultimately they exist to provide services, the right services, in a way that work as efficiently as possible. The analogy I draw is if you go to the hospital with a head cold and a heart attack, and if the triage nurse spends half an hour dealing with your head cold, the heart attack will kill you. And we got a heart attack, ladies and gentlemen. Our downtown is broken.
It's broken.
It's dying. And the Democrats' solution is to write it off. You look at the Mailer map, you've got the big blue box, which is downtown. It doesn't exist. They don't want to invest in downtown. They don't want to solve the unsustainably high tax burden that downtown has. At least they're not trying to.
Anything that happens, and I mean, I was in New York State this past Sunday and drove through Amenia, and Amenia's downtown is they're making a concentrated effort to bring businesses back down. I mean, there's quite a few vacant stores. But they're making a concentrated effort, and the concentrated effort revolves around how do we get somebody in here and what is the cost? I mean, they're willing to make a deal.
Right.
You can't sustain a downtown and make the rest of the old town subsidized housing.
No,
I mean, there's not enough money floating around to support anybody.
We need to bring residents into town who will shop on Main Street. It's pretty simple. And the way to do that is not by telling them you're going to drive their mill rate to 40 mills. The way you do that, the way you bring businesses into town is not by telling them, gee, we're going to raise your taxes next year by 25%. For what? For the change of a date. Simply because you get into a new year, your taxes are going up by 25%. You get nothing for it. Nothing. But simply because the revale happens on a date certain, your taxes are going up. Businesses need visibility and certainty and understanding what their tax situation is going to be. And they need customers. We need residents. We need to fill the empty houses. We need to take the multifamily houses and convert them to single-family houses.
And you have to do that through a program that reduces taxes on the old neighborhoods and creates incentives for people to make the investment to do that. You can't have a house that's worth $60,000 paying $4,000 and $5,000 and $6,000 a year based on an old reval that you're phasing in the new reval, and you're not accommodating the drop in value.
Right.
I mean, you know, as I said, drive up my area and you'll see them sitting there, and you're going to see more. I mean, people just walk away from this disaster.
I mean, this budget truly has written off the downtown area. You know, the powers that be, the administration, have decided that downtown is where all of the problems arise. Downtown is causing the problems of the reval. That's making all sorts of headaches. Downtown is where the empty buildings are, all sorts of headaches. Downtown is the political black eye of having given away a building and a ton of tax breaks to one of their own almost a year ago, and having nothing happen with that building.
Nothing to draw for.
Yeah, nothing. We don't have the baker or the butcher or the pub or anything else that we were promised. The only thing that's happened with that building is it now has giant billboards for Selectman Renzullo's political campaign.
Of which we're supporting that too.
Right. I mean, downtown, from the perspective of the current administration, is a headache. And their solution is to write it off. As far as they're concerned, downtown is where you drive through with your windows up and your doors locked. And you do not stop. Because there's nothing to stop for. The stores are empty. The people walking on the streets are walking on the streets because they're unemployed, because they can't find a job, because we don't have businesses coming to town. We don't have people looking for the latest baker bookstore. Wouldn't it be nice, ladies and gentlemen, if we were sitting here arguing that we have too many bookstores and we need a shoe shop?
Shoe shop.
Wouldn't that be great? Wouldn't it be great if we were talking about how do we put the P&Z regs online, as opposed to how do we just create a new set of P&Z regs to make life even more difficult for everyone? Wouldn't it be great if we were talking about how the kids in school were using their iPads to do research on whether the next field trip is to the Grand Canyon to see nature or to Europe to see culture? We don't do field trips, ladies and gentlemen. We don't have iPads. We don't have any of that stuff. We don't have any bookstores.
But the world you go out into and the world you work into does.
And that's what we need. We need to invest in our neighborhoods to permit the revitalization of our commercial Main Street, to rebuild the financial flexibility of this town, so that we can make investments in services that you and we know that everyone will value and support. Our roads, our schools, our social programs. But there's hard work ahead of us, ladies and gentlemen. We must have a budget that cuts, that reduces, so that spending is in line with what we can afford. There is no point starting at a point where we can't afford it. There's no point starting at the place that you have already rejected overwhelmingly. We must have a budget that takes that spending, what's left, and makes it work. Efficient spending on programs that work, not programs that don't work, not programs that aren't efficient. And finally, we must reinvest. Reduce, restructure, and reinvest. This is just not a slogan. This is not an empty mantra. This is how we got to do it.
This is what you have to do. There's no way around it anymore. There's no easy way out, and there's going to be a lot of pain no matter which way you go.
At the end of the day, again, this is a budget that does more of the same. It simply takes the existing staffing structure and puts more money into that structure. The employees of our town and our schools will not be better off on the day this town goes bankrupt. They will lose their jobs, they will lose their benefits, they will lose their retirement plans. They and we will see our taxes go up, and all of this will happen overnight in an unplanned way. We need to be planning to fix our town. Leaving the houses empty, leaving the storefronts empty, that's not building community. Reinvesting in our downtown neighborhoods, that's building community. And we can't do it without getting the budget in line. And for that, we need you. We need you to come, either on Saturday or before Saturday, and vote. We need to ask yourself those three questions. Can I afford it? Is it doing what it seeks to do well? And is it doing what it needs to do? Is it doing what I need it to do for me as a citizen and for my community? Can I picture Winsted in 10 years' time as a thriving, bustling place on the basis of this budget? Will this budget have made the changes in the way our services are delivered and structured and financed? Will this budget have made the real investments in our neighborhoods? Will this budget have brought a neighbor to fill the empty house on my street?
And that's the key. I mean, you can't do it without people, and to get the people here, a plan has to be put in place to revitalize the neighborhoods, and to do that, you have to make them single-family, owner-occupied buildings. Once again, the cost structure for each of the properties has to go down to entice people to get here, and you have to create a job for that person to work at.
And that all has to be laid out in the open, in a plan that you understand and can buy into. It can't just be hidden in the newspapers, in various different numbers. Taxes might be going up, or they might not be going up, or they might be going up by almost a mil, or they might not. Taxes are going up to support a budget that no one will explain to you, to support a budget that does nothing new, but to support a budget that simply plows more money into doing the same things with the same prospect of failure.
Time for a change. Vote no.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. And if you do believe that your vote has been suppressed, if you do believe that you have not received the support that you need from Town Hall to actually vote, then contact Denise Merrill, Secretary of the State of Connecticut. Her telephone number is 860-509-6200. Contact her and let her know what your experience of this referendum has been. As John says, vote no on Saturday, vote no any day between now and Saturday, but vote and vote no. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you, and we will see you after the referendum.
Thank you.
Good night.